The telco insider whose mobile phone tower protest went out of control is back. Now, he drove a tank down city streets, destroying transmitters to highlight what he saw as dangerous tower emissions. Now, of course, he was sent to jail for that, but the former technician hasn't changed his mind about the health effects of mobile phone towers, and he's preparing another protest. But as Laura Sparks reports, this one won't involve a tank.
The message was that how dangerous it was. I wasn't thinking clearly, I made some rash decisions, which I really regret.
But it was out of sheer frustration, wasn't it?
Yes, yeah.
His desperation drove him to extreme measures. John Patterson did the unthinkable. He went on a destructive spree in a tank, and now he's paid dearly for his actions.
I was proved guilty, and I was jailed for my offences.
How dangerous is this office?
It's catastrophic. You wouldn't work here.
We first met John, a former senior telecommunications technical officer with Telstra, more than 2 years ago. Back then, he was waiting to be sentenced, facing a jail term for his tank attack.
I was involved in rolling the technology out. I was very responsible for any safety things that actually happened. So I felt obligated to actually do something about it.
John borrowed his mate's armoured personnel carrier, one of only 2 in the country, and rammed 8 equipment shelters housing transmitters for mobile phone towers.
It disrupts the bioelectric system of your body, which is really your brain, your nervous system, how your muscles talk.
For 20 years, John tested Telstra digital systems. Over the time, he realised the dangers of electromagnetic radiation. When he moved to this Telstra depot in between 2 mobile phone towers, he got violently sick.
It microwaved us. So I got all the test gear out and measured it and drew up a report and showed that it was an occupational hazard to work in that building with that amount of radiation. And I was immediately removed from service.
After taking a voluntary redundancy, John went on to warn every responsible authority.
Everyone said I was technically correct, but no one had the power to stand up on my side. People within the industry, they've just misinformed all of the relevant authorities.
So if the industry knows mobile phones are so dangerous, don't they have a legal duty of care to tell us?
Anyone that realises that it's bad is removed from the industry.
In sheer desperation, John inflicted $6 million worth of damage on the transmitter shelters. He eventually pleaded guilty to malicious damage and served 20 months in jail.
It was terrible, a terrible experience. I never want to go back to jail. I'll never break the law.
There's about 18,000 mobile phone towers dotted across Australia, and John's not the only one worried. Electrical engineer John Lincoln.
People start losing their regular sleep and they get lethargic.
Australia's top neurosurgeon Charlie Teo.
We're seeing the increase in frequency of tumours in the insular region, which is this region right here, the temporal lobe, the frontal lobe. So it's right there where you hold your phone.
Not safe, not right, not on.
And it's not just radiation from mobile phones and towers. Here in Melbourne, residents are worried about a large-scale expansion of this electrical terminal station.
EMF is known to have an association with the incidence of childhood leukemia in a population. So that's electromagnetic fields from high voltage equipment.
The Australian Communications and Media Authority says there is no substantiated evidence on adverse health effects from mobile phone towers or mobile phones. But John says it's the accumulation.
We're in Sydney Basin, there's probably 10 million phones in Sydney Basin. Then there's all the Wi-Fi is used. There's all of the communications, radio, TV, everything.
John's now setting up a business. He's got $500,000 worth of equipment, including this $80,000 spectrum analyzer, one of only a few in the country. So how much radiation is in here because of that tower?
It's equivalent to thousands of mobile phones being inside the office here.
All ringing at once?
Yes.
So if I was to work in here for 2 years with that mobile phone tower there and that radiation in here, how would it affect me?
Worst case scenario, bowel cancer, liver cancer, lung, heart, brain problems.
His aim to alert people on how to identify immediate effects of radiation, for example, sleeplessness, and then to teach those concerned about how to safeguard their homes and offices.
What you shouldn't have plugged in during night time when you're sleeping, just general occupational health and safety. If you're not getting your sleep, I can show you how to get good night's sleep.
And a Senate committee inquiry has been taking submissions into where mobile phone towers can be located. We'll be hearing more about their findings in May. There are now 26 million mobile phones being used in Australia, and the debate about the possible dangers of using a mobile continues to build. Now, some cancer survivors are calling for governments to take the drastic step of banning all mobile phone use for children under 16 and for the rest of us to text instead of call. Laura Sparks has this exclusive report.
My tumour was just here, hence there's a scar there.
Tumours in the left frontal lobe, which was basically around there.
It was like there.
About that big, just here.
You start at the ear and go straight into your brain, and that's your auditory nerve, and it grows around that.
They share a bond. They have the same scars, the same dreaded X-rays, reminders of where their brain tumours once were. They're from different suburbs, cities and social circles. Yet they all got tumours near their ear. And they all blame the same thing.
I'd use my phone about 2 hours a day.
The area that it was here, and I mean, you put two and two together.
I believe it's a lot of heavy mobile phone use.
I just hope it's in my lifetime that phone companies are held accountable for this damage.
Emily Sefton had the most to lose. She was diagnosed with a brain tumour when her son Jesse, now 2, was just 11 weeks old.
I was just devastated. I just remember dropping my son off to my mother-in-law, and I just thought, you know, am I going to see him again?
The International Agency for Research on Cancer recently declared mobile phones as a possible cause of cancer.
I feel vindicated in some respect.
This latest admission doesn't surprise former mobile phone salesman David Smith. He first spoke to Today Tonight 3 years ago. So David, the tumour was just here, is that right, behind your ear?
That's right, behind my right ear.
Lately, there's been conflicting reports about mobile phone use. Some saying they do pose a risk, others saying there's no problem at all. But in the fine print of the World Health Organisation's latest report, it states that heavy users of mobile phones, now that's people that use mobile phones for half an hour a day for more than 10 years, triple their risk of getting a brain tumour.
I just would hate for people watching this right now in 10 years' time to go, far out, why didn't I take note? Why didn't I listen? I honestly believe that I'm in this position right now with this tumour because I've overused my phone.
Last year, we filmed Anna Tarrant's tumour removal. 7 months on, she suffers from fatigue, short-term memory loss, migraines, and, like the others, has the ever-present threat that the tumour will grow back. Christian Giorgio had his tumour cut out 9 months ago.
What worries do you have?
That it's going to become another epidemic.
There were others who couldn't make our filming. Aaron Rose suffered a seizure that night. Truy Bottoms had chemotherapy that day. And then there's former television producer Romaine Udale.
Well, it's a new club, which unfortunately I'm part of.
She had to go into surgery the day before we filmed because the tumour, taken out 7 months ago, had already started to grow back.
If someone had told me that years ago, I would have welcomed that information and not abused the mobile.
Having emerged from round 2 of brain surgery, Romaine, now an executive coach, is keen to get the message out.
Okay, I'm going to time myself today. How many minutes have I been on the mobile phone?
With no cure available for brain tumours, neurosurgeon Charlie Teo is worried about the possible link.
We're seeing the increase in frequency of tumours in the insular region, which is this region right here, the temporal lobe, the frontal lobe. So it's right there where you hold your phone.
Another neurosurgeon, Richard Bittar, advises to text or only use a mobile on speakerphone. And he has this warning for parents.
It's a pretty big gamble to let a child use a mobile phone at this point in time.
And it's this message that these 4 brain tumour sufferers want to lobby government about.
I just want parents to be more aware of radiation and the possible effects it can have on their child's brain.
For any child under 16, they should only be able to text unless they're calling 000 or their parents.
I mean, don't take the risk with mobile phones. We don't know what they're doing yet.
I would have definitely lessened my mobile phone usage if I could have turned back the clock.